laptop froze, and then suddenly the whole system shut right down. And the kids stayed there. I was able to reboot my laptop, and when I came back, they were like, where do you go?
That's pretty good.
Hey, anybody want some gloves here?
That's not how it works, Barry. So Barry, maybe when we discuss particular items, we should call out to our Zoomers at the end of the item, so if they have anything to add, there's a little lag on Zoom, like Jake and Pete.
Yes.
Is that okay with you?
Yes, if there's, everybody should have a chance to talk, and I think we need to give the time for them to go around and
But I think we're going to have to call them out specifically, I guess is what I'm saying. We can't just wait, because they may talk and we'll talk with them.
Hello. Jared? Hey, Jared, listen, I'm in the school board meeting right now, Mr. Goldman, and I'd like for you to call me back later, if that's okay with you.
He called it too.
He's calling me too.
All right, we are live and we're ready to start when you are.
Are we live?
We are.
Are we?
We are.
Oh. Welcome to the 876th meeting of the Board of Directors of this MSAD27. Roll call, please.
You're going to have to speak nice and loud, Mr. Chairman. Keith Jandro, I do not see him connected yet.
He's not on.
Kerr Susi,
Here.
Toby Jandro,
Here.
Harry Willett,
Present?
Gary Sibley,
Here.
Sarah Ashley.
Here.
Jacob Terrio. I see him there. He's there. He will say yes in a minute. And Caitlin Daigle.
Here.
And Emily Willett.
Here.
Hello, Jacob. Can you hear us? We'll never know. He's there in spirit.
You all muted?
Most of them are. I'll still go, Mr. Chairman.
There's one thing I want to move and I can't find it. It's people that went to Augusta and met with the.
Yep, that is under Subcommittee Reports, and it's item B. So on number 7, item B.
I'd like to move that somewhere. I can't find it. 7. I'd like to move that somewhere, but I don't know where. Where it is in I can't find it.
It's number 7, item B.
Okay. Is it in the right place?
It's a subcommittee report.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, a lot of paper. Any adjustments?
There are no adjustments to the agenda.
Like the period for public participation?
Right.
If we're gonna have meetings like this, at some point in time, either towards the end, they'll be able to add something or comment or email or.
Yep. So what we have in our invitation says that they can email me at any time during or after the meeting to ask a question, or they can post a chat on the YouTube page. I'm watching it right now to see if any chats are coming through. So I have that going right here. And right now I don't have any, although we do have 11 watching on YouTube. So if things come up on the chat or if in my email, I'll stop the meeting and we can address the public comment.
Very good.
Okay.
The minutes, 875th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Moved by Gary,
Second.
second by Kirk.
Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none?
All those in favor?
Okay, Keith? Jacob?
Jacob-
you can't be
Jacob-
drinking that coffee like that.
Jacob gave a thumbs up, which means he's voted yes.
Thumbs up? Jacob? Jacob talking?
He just gave you a thumbs
He gave a thumbs up,
Okay,
and Keith is not present, so.
okay, very good. Financial statements.
And I believe you were given the February ones ahead of time. The March ones were added afterwards. They are, I think, at the bottom of your packet somewhere.
Lucy had sent both.
Lucy sent them electronically. Yep,
Yeah.
she did.
Make a motion to accept the financial statements,
Moved by Gary,
For,
March and February.
I'll second.
second by Sarah.
any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
All members in favor.
You didn't see Jacob.
Yeah,
Jacob
he's
right
got,
now?
see the thumb in the top corner of his banana?
He's on the bottom right, as far as I know.
He's
Bottom left.
using advanced technology. He's using emojis to vote. I'm with him.
My God,
He-
almighty.
Jacob's speaking my language.
I thought he was the one on the upper left, one moved down.
No, he's bottom right.
No,
At any rate,
that's Anne Marie.
All right, here we go.
Good thing there's no vision test.
Department of Education updates.
Yeah, so I wanted to give you some COVID-19 updates. The first one is Department of Ed. We did have the opportunity to Zoom in with the commissioner last Friday, last Tuesday. She participated in our St. John, our Aroostook County Superintendent's weekly meetings, and we had provided some questions in advance, and she was there to answer our questions. So I just wanted to go over some of those questions and answers with you. The first one was, what is the state advising districts to do on the school budget preparation process? She wanted us to know that Maine School Management had drafted language for an executive order to provide school districts flexibility in budgets this year. The governor's office has had a lot of pressure to do something to this extent. The executive order is now on the governor's desk or in the hands of their legal team, and they're refining the language as we speak. We hope to hear back from that executive order sometime this week or early next week with some guidance. And there's been all kinds of rumors of what that flexibility will be, everything from having reduced amount of people in the budget hearings. If we have to have one with the public, obviously we can't have large groups of people, perhaps maybe even superseding that step and going on to some other suggestions as well. So right now we don't know, but we know that something is in the work. And she wanted us to know that before that was released to the public, it would be released to the superintendents. So I could fill you in on what that news is in advance before the public does find out. We wanted to know what happens with students who go off the grid. This was one of my questions that I had been asking for the past 4 weeks. What should we do with regards to truancy? The commissioner advised that all truancy protocols can continue to be followed, but not as punitive measures. Use them more as reporting measures, and what she says, try to make them well-being check-ins with the families. So if you have students that are not replying to teachers, it's time to check in with them and see that they're all right. So we've initiated some of those. We've contacted Aroostook County, Aroostook County and local law enforcement to help check in on some of those families. And urge them to please reach out to the school. Again, not a huge amount, but enough that we should be keeping track of. Another question was a graduating class. If you have graduation classes of 50 or smaller, can you hold a ceremony? The commissioner was not quick to say yes, even though the governor's next step in her phases does allow for groups of 50 starting in June. She did say, please be mindful that moving into the next phase will only depend on the success of the previous phase. So the governor's plan for phase 2 is a plan right now, but it's only going to come to realization if phase 1 is successful. So wants us to be careful about that. The department did release today a guidance document on graduations, and I'll review that in a few minutes when I go over our own graduation survey and what Mr. Coletta and his team are planning to do. Questions about should we start bringing teachers and learners into the buildings now to start recapturing learning, and that is not advised at this time. Meeting face-to-face is not recommended. They really want us to exhaust all other options prior to that happening. However, if we have to bring in a learner to ensure that especially graduation requirements are made or met, we can do that as long as it's a last effort. Some questions around the food meal service, how long that's going to last as it currently is. We just found out this week that there's been a waiver to extend the current setup of the meal system to extend to June 30th. So we can run exactly the way that we are until June 30th, if we so choose. After June 30th, it looks like we're going to go back into a regular summer feeding mode, which is site-based. So we'd offer a lunch here. We'd offer a lunch at Eagle Lake. In the past, we've done, I think we've done another area in town. I can't remember if it was the church parking lot or so. We'd have to move back to that. However, that could get extended again. We just don't know. So right now we know till June 30th. We could do that if we choose. We're going to be talking with our team about whether or not that's realistic. If our ed techs are going off on summer break, essentially June 17 or June 15 when their year ends, how do we make the summer meal program work the way that it is until the 30th? So we'll be talking more about that, but we know we have the green light to go till June 30th. Can we anticipate any subsidies being held due to economic downturn? I just got a message from someone I know professionally from Ohio that put out a Twitter post last night that Ohio has just cut $300 million from the education budget for the month of for the months of May and June. So those school districts are not getting subsidies promised to them in the months of May and June. So it's a big hit to their economy. We asked the commissioner, is this something like this going to happen to us? Are they going to cut our subsidy this year? Are they going to cut it next year? And she said that's the last thing they're looking at. So it hasn't even come up in conversations yet, according to her. And she said she will fight to the end to make sure that our subsidies are not cut. So we're hoping that that's going to be exactly what happens. And then we had some questions about the CARES funds. The CARES funds are the funds that are available due to the COVID-19 and what we're going to be doing with it. We just got guidance this week that there's been some webinars put out and the applications for those should be open any day now. And we have some guidance on how that's going to look. We also know that we can carry over all of our Title 1A money that we didn't spend this year. All of our Title 2, Title 4, Title 5 money can all be carried over. There's no more 15% carry forward limit on anything. So all of those things have been waived, which is good. So we're just waiting to see how things look at the end of it. So that was pretty much the extent of our meeting with the commissioner. Any questions?
Well, I'm concerned that the fact that the state's not making any money and eventually they're not going to have any money to give us. That's
Yeah.
my biggest concern.
There are 2 states in the nation that they say are not going to recover from this pandemic, and Maine is one of those 2 because we're tourism-based economy. I mean, and there will be no tourism essentially this summer. So I don't know what that's all going to mean, but it's not going to be good.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. Pete, question? All the guys went away. except for
No,
Lucy.
I'm
Hey,
sure
is Lucy alive anyway?
Lucy is there. She's
I saw her
alive.
up in the corner there. Is it true that she has a tanning bed on her back deck? Hi, Lucy.
I will not divulge.
You finally heard somebody talk.
Hi, Ben, this is Jake.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I think a lot of people would be interested to continue the food service program to June 30th. So when you're talking about contracts running out, what's the possibility for volunteers to get into the school to assist with continuing this program going?
Yeah, we're going to put everything on the table, Jake. We want to see it going as long as possible as well. And even in the summer, if we can get a little more creative with extending our site-based, I mean, we're showing right now people are looking for the food. So the best we can, we're going to make it work as best that we can.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I'm getting a note that YouTube's not hearing us.
YouTube is not hearing us right now. Is YouTube hearing me or not hearing the chairman when he speaks? Or it all depends on how loud we're speaking. So I would just advocate we're just a little bit louder than usual because I think the primary microphone is coming from my computer. So this is not a professional setup here.
He's talking about you.
Okay, Jerry.
Are we all set to move to the next agenda item?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. What we have here for you is our reintegration plan. It's our, I don't want to say the opposite of our remote learning plan, but it's part of our remote learning plan, and it's our plan to plan for the unknown. And that's always a really weird place to be in. I recognize that it's hard to plan when you don't know what the future holds, but without a plan, we're going to be lost to and just reacting. So I would much rather we be proactive than reactive in our approach to how we move forward. So this is our planning to return to school. And this plan has three components. One is the return to school roadmap. The part two is the reintegration team. And the part three is the reintegration timeline that I'd like to share with you. Please understand this is a plan in progress. It's going to change. So what I'm presenting tonight, I'll tell you what, I presented this to the Madawaska School Department on Monday. It's already changed. We've added a slide. So it's going to change all the time, and I will update you when we do make changes as often as I can. So the first part to this is a return to school roadmap. It's planning for a safe, efficient, and equitable return to school. We found we came across I'm trying to open this, a resource called the Return to School Roadmap. And it's right up on the screen there. It's from the Opportunity Labs Initiative. It's essentially a planning guide for how you can reintegrate students into the school, reintegrate staff into the school, by doing so mindfully, by paying attention to facts, pay attention to the data, and not making rash decisions, focusing really heavily on wellness in addition to instruction, because I think so many of our learners, so many of our teachers are going to need a lot of social emotional support, especially if we go into the fall here and we're flip-flopping with what's happening with regards to school, which is a lot of predictions are telling us is what's going to happen. So it's really heavy on those components. And then you have to really plan for all of those other things that are important, the facilities, the school operations, technology, and all of those things. So in our plan, we're going to follow that framework as best we can, but this framework was developed for really large urban schools with a lot of moving parts. So we've tailored it to look more like what it should for our district. And in our first part of that, we've put together teams. We have an administrative team that does some wonderful work, but we want to be really mindful that when we're planning for the future of instruction, we've got to be talking to teachers. When we're planning for the future of a safe, healthy environment in schools, we have to be talking to our school nurses and our social workers, and even our phys ed teachers who can offer a lot about how we can remain more healthy as this new way of schooling is evolving and changing. So we've put together these initial teams. The first team is our core team, which is the Return to School Committee. We met for the first time this Monday and started our plan of action to get going. Out of that Return to School Committee, we have lead people that are going to be running their own team. Peter Cairns agreed to help lead the health and wellness team, where we have our school nurses, school social workers, and PE teachers that are going to be the core of that team. Again, working with how we can take care of ourselves now and when school returns, and then beyond as well. We have our Restoration of Instruction team, which is being led by Sharon, and our curriculum leader, our teacher leaders are part of that team, and our guidance counselors are part of that team as well. Talking about what does instruction look like if this happens? What does instruction look like if that happens? And planning for all of the different scenarios. We realize we've done a great job with our initial remote learning plan that we're into right now, but we're going to have to be so much different and so much better in the future of this if it becomes a regular thing. And then part of that is another subcommittee, the technology subcommittee, that's being led by Giselle and all the tech coordinators. Technology is going to have to evolve and drive as we move this. If you see this meeting right now, we wouldn't have seen this 3 months ago, and that's just a meeting. So classroom instruction, however that looks, is going to have to look very differently as well. Although we appreciate what the teachers have done in their way of sending out this remote learning plan and only do 2 days prep time, we're going to have to be very mindful about preparing and having the right technology in place so that we can have a more robust remote learning experience. And we think we can do that.
We weren't allowed to do this.
What's that?
We weren't even allowed.
To do this?
No,
No,
this would not be allowed. We wasn't allowed to have a meeting like this.
in the past. You're right. You're right.
No,
Yeah, we've had some flexibility with the state as well. Yep. School site team is a focus on facilities and transportation, and you have Paul Chassie and Peter Associate that are going to co-chair that with some of the other folks from the districts, talking about central office. How do we make that a safe place where we conduct business every day in our facilities? If we're going to be bringing people back in, how are we ensuring that the facilities are being taken care of? Transportation. If we have to have social distancing on school buses in the future, how in the world do you do that when you're bringing in 60 kids from the St. John Road? So there's going to be a lot of thought and planning behind that, and we're hopeful that we can come up with a plan that works and is possible. And then school nutrition, we know that's going to have to continue. In what's it going to look like if we have different scenarios for learning, and how do we ensure that our students are continuing to get fed based on those scenarios?
Does anybody have an idea on how they're supposed to eat? How far apart? How big of a cafeteria would you?
I don't believe we could have the students in the cafeteria at that time. Yeah, absolutely. No, we couldn't. And the teamwork is going to be focused on a bunch of different things, but we kind of narrow it down to four frameworks: maximizing learning opportunities, safe, healthy working environments, alternate school day and work day schedules, and then future remote learning. We know we're going to have to recapture some learning. We're hopeful that we can put together some summer school options that are going to work and be within the framework of what the governor has laid out, because we're going to have to recapture a lot of learning for a lot of kiddos. And then coming back in the fall, how do we intervene? How do we have strong intervention, especially at the lower elementary level, where we're recapturing a lot of lost time? And I'd like to share that with you as well. So we have a timeline for how we think this is going to go. I'm not going to get too much in the details of the timeline beyond our initial thoughts, because we want the teams to be part of the planning process of each step in the timeline. This timeline has 4 stages. The first stage is resumption, which starts today, or starts next Monday and moves on to the end of June. Then we have a recovery phase, which is centered around summer school options and return to full site work for almost all, if not most, employees. Then recalibration, like I said a while ago, when the students do, and if they can, come back to school on August 20, how are we recapturing learning? That time before harvest break, we really, really want to maximize the most of our time. And, Mr. Neto and I have already had some good conversations around grouping and regrouping of students. Maybe it's not so much grade level based those first 4 weeks. It's this group of students needs this. They're working with these teachers on these concepts. This other group of students need this. They're working with teachers on these concepts. We know we're going to have to recapture. That looks a little bit different at the high school, where students, for the most part, have been successful. A great majority of them in remote learning because they have that learner agency. They're able to do that. It's hard for a 5 and a 6-year-old to engage in remote learning on that same level. So we know we're going to need to recoup that. So, and then finally moving out of harvest break, the reconstitution phase. This is our new normal. What does that look like, and how are we sustaining this for the rest of the year? I'd just like to talk to you about the first phase, resumption, because that's the only one we kind of know what we're doing because it's starting as early as next week. With regards to the students, our plan is to end remote learning the week of June 1 to June 5. It's not a gradual phase out as I explained to you earlier in the year. It's going to be more about, okay, that's now the last school day, and teachers, how are you preparing for that end of the school year on June 5? It is 8 days short of the school year, but we do have a plan for those 8 days that we think are essential and are going to be needed. My fear has been and always will be, the longer we keep kids in school this year, the wider the gap separates from engaged and non-engaged. And I know that's not something we can't control, but it's something as superintendent I'm very concerned about. And I think if we can end the school year on June 5, bring in the learners or engage them somehow, that those learners that haven't been engaged, I think we can try to bridge that gap a little bit before the fall. So we're looking at June 5 to end remote learning for the students who have been doing extremely well in this, and targeting a group of learners to begin summer school on Monday, June 22, which is the following Monday after the teachers finish their PD. And the state still has to give us guidance on what summer school can and will look like. So we're still waiting for that as well. Our education staff, we would like to have June 8 to June 17, which is 8 staff days dedicated to refining remote learning. I've said it a while ago, I'll say it again. The teachers did a remarkable job at putting things together in a short amount of time, but we need to rein this in a little bit and say, okay, instead of 15 choices, teachers, of different ways you can provide remote learning, let's focus on 1 or 2 so that all the students kind of know what to expect from one teacher to another. Facebook live streams and Googles and Zooms, and there's too many choices. And we really think that in order for students to be successful, they have to know what's expected of them, and it has to be common from one classroom to the other. We talk about common expectations. We have to have that. In my mind, I feel like if things are like the governor's plan, or things are like they seem they will be soon, we should be able to bring our teachers in, even if students can't come in. Bring our teachers in their classrooms and have them conduct classes from their classroom. I hope there are students in the classroom when they're doing that. That's my wish and my hope. And maybe it's a full classroom because school is in session. Maybe it's a minimal students on site scenario where we're only allowed to bring half at a time because that's what the guidance allows. So half of the kids in Kerr's class are sitting in seats socially distanced. The other half are connecting at home at his lesson during that class time, and we have the technology to support that. And we're looking at all of those things right now, because I think remote learning, the way that we can do this with the right technology, if math is from 10 to 11, you're tuned in at home from 10 to 11 because your math block. It's not these check-ins that's happening right now. It's our teachers teaching their regular day. If they're a high school teacher, their regular 6 subjects, and the students are coming in at those times. We're taking attendance. We're going to have to look at all of those policies and do those things. I'm hopeful that we can deliver that kind of a level of remote learning. We're going to need some PD for that, because if we don't take this opportunity for PD at the end of June, the minute that June 17 comes around and it's summer vacation, we're not going to get a lot of teachers back, because they earned this summer break. And to say we have optional PD this summer, I don't know that we're going to capture all of them. And if we come back to in August, it's going to be too late. We need to get as much PD going. We need to talk about not only the way we're delivering live streams, but the way we're housing the work for the students. Some people it's a web page, some people it's a Google Doc, some people it's Google Classroom, some people it's Empower Learning. We need to bring that in as well. The students need to have an idea of what's expected, and it's got to be common.
Can I just interject here for a second?
Yep.
I can also say, like, as an educator, we were thrown into the frying pan.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was already on fire. And the bottom line is we were fortunate, but I feel I was very fortunate to have somebody like Sharon Ontario, who did a lot of work in terms of training us how to use the Zoom. And I mean, without some of that support and guidance, I really could not have done it.
Right.
Okay, so there are different programs, whether it's Zoom or QuickTime or any of the other programs that we're using. We as faculty are being trained. The setback that I have experienced in interacting with students is some of those kids, they have not been trained.
Right.
So so even though you entertain a Zoom meeting, we have a number of students who have absolutely no clue as to how to get on and how to be invited into that meeting. There's a lot of, when you talk about Google Docs and stuff of that nature in Google Classroom, yeah, I mean, that was all foreign to me before we started all this. But my point is, we have a number of students who may have learning disabilities, learning issues, and they have not, no one has really gone knocking at their door, or no one has taken the time to really train or teach those kids. So it's a major setback, because they can't always submit their assignments because they really don't know how.
Right.
So what I'm finding is, here I am pretty inexperienced, and I spend an awful lot of time on the phone. I probably had 35, 40 conference calls with students today. And a lot of it is all about technology, and kids just they really do not know how to download something and how to send it to you. And so whether you're asking them to do a Quizlet or whatever, they don't know how to do them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fair number of students that know this technology, but there's a lot of kids that don't. So in the process of teaching, it's going to have to be not only the faculty staff, but people are going to have to consider doing some work with the kids right from.
And I think that's part of it. When you as a teacher are proficient at what you are doing and what you're delivering, you're fully proficient. I think you're able to teach your children, your students, how to do that, even remotely. You know what I mean? So I watched my wife the other day, and she wanted to teach kids how to annotate a PDF so they wouldn't have to print out their PDF, and we don't have ink at home. And well, no, bring up your PDF. Okay, now go to that link at the top that says annotate, click on that. Now drag your text box, now type. And it was just like, oh, okay, now we can type on a PDF. Now send it to me. So there are ways we can do that, I think.
I understand that. I mean, that's what I'm also doing. So when you have the number of students, for example, that I'm teaching, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, I'm teaching almost 100 students. So there's just so many kids I'll be able to reach. And some of the kids I feel bad, that they weren't able to get into the Zoom meeting. I mean, that happens at our level, whatever. They haven't been invited. You're sitting there waiting in the waiting room. Nobody acknowledges you. All right. But yeah, I just think that there's a fair number of kids that are really gonna, we need to be, I think we have to put a survey out there and find out from the parents.
And that's part of, so Sharon is a part of, is the lead on the instruction team. And that's the first thing that we talked about. And Sharon said, I want to survey the students, what works for them, what doesn't, survey the parents, what works for them, what doesn't. Email might be comfortable to us, as adults. Email is so 2001 to these kids don't email. I mean, email is not something that they're doing. So they need the information direct. They need it right now. So if you've sent Zoom links via email, a lot of these kids don't know their email password, so I can't get to my email, right? But if you send it on a message, you Snapchat the link, and they can just click on it and go. We've got to learn as the professionals how we can communicate with our students better to help them through it. So that's all part of that professional development and how we're going to bridge that gap. I'm hopeful that we can have some sort of in-school learning when this all starts. But if you look at, I'm going to go back a slide here. We start school on August 20. And if you look at the governor's phases right now, the month of August is her phase 4, which does not lift the 50 people at one time in one area restriction. So we have more than 50 students in this school. So what does that mean for us here in Aroostook County, where we have potato harvest and we start school before September? We're going to have to work this all out and figure it all out, because right now, the way that the governor has laid it out, we can't have school starting fully on August 20, the way that our calendar is set.
I see 8 days of professional development.
Yep.
For teachers. I don't see any days to teach the kids on how they're supposed to learn this.
And again,
I mean, that's, and you brought up the problem too. You're trying to figure out a way to teach your kids. And kids are struggling because, so we might need to start the school earlier.
I think we're taking our students. I think the students know the technology better than us. Let's just put it there. The students know the technology, but I think it's the communication of us as adults and how we're trying to communicate that level of how to engage with something. We're not using what the students know in order to do that. So it's training the adults to reach this. I don't think we need to train the students to reach where we're at as adults. We need to think the other way.
Okay, so what are you going to do in those 8 days?
So as I mentioned, we need a complete and thorough approach to how we're going to initiate a remote learning plan that's going to be classroom based. It's going to be live stream based. It's going to be focusing on a student information system, or a student system that the students do not have to go to 15 different places because they have 15 different teachers. They can go to a one-stop shop place to get their information, and it's streamlined across the board. It's learning how to use programs like Whiteboard, where I can do math problems on the computer screen and the students are seeing what I'm doing. It's how to phase into a Whiteboard app back to an on-screen where they see me. The kids need to see the teachers instructing. They can't have an email on Monday that says, please go to this website, this website, this website, and all they're doing is watching a couple of YouTube videos that somebody else is teaching them. They need their teacher teaching them, and we need to prepare our teachers better on how to do that. And that's what my vision is for that. Sharon, did you want to, I know Sharon's out there, did you want to highlight on that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I met with the leadership team from 27 yesterday, and it's going to be really super important during that time period that they look at their students and start to prioritize the students that their needs at that point in time. Because if we wait until August to make those assessments and look at our grouping at that point in time, we've lost a lot of really important time to start planning with their colleagues on how they're going to, address some of these problems in the fall. So it's imperative during that period that teachers look at the student work, look at the evidence, and start grouping their students based on need. So that's definitely one of the things that they asked for that time during that time period. Another thing too is when you're talking about training students, I agree that there's a lot of lost time in showing students how to use some of this technology, but hopefully through the surveys, we want to find best practices, what's worked best for parents, what's worked best for students, and also what platforms teachers have used that they found to be helpful in their delivery of remote learning. Once we can streamline that, I think we can create some tutorials, because I have created tutorials for students on the website for, say, Google Classroom that talks students on how to do some of these things. But the link that's missing is the accountability piece on the student. So the responsibility, if a teacher takes time every time they're doing a lesson to re-instruct or spend some time with one particular student, I think it's best if the student has those resources, the student knows the protocol, and if the protocols are similar from class to class, and that it doesn't change like the wind changes or each teacher is expecting something different. These are the things that we need to iron out in terms of protocols. What do we expect? How do we expect students to do this? And have that detailed in written form, but also video tutorials for them, and have them housed. I can create these lists in Empower so that they go in, they learn how to do that, but there's also a section in there that requires them to do something with it. So they're not just looking at it, but they learn by doing rather than just by absorbing the information. So we can streamline that process. Because if we go and try to teach every student every platform that they're using right now, we would just be spinning our wheels, because people are using Seesaw, people are using Empower, people are using Google Drive, Google, all kinds of different platforms. So if we can identify best practices and move forward from there, I think that we'll be better for it. And we can use that time to plan accordingly so that we can have all those resources available and have them during the summer for students if they would so choose, and maybe having some certifications for them, saying, yeah, I've completed that. So we just need some uniformity, we need some accountability, and we also need some, a place for teachers as a resource rather than being responsible for being experts in all of this, because that above and beyond what they teach, I don't expect them to be an expert in Google Drive or Google, so that's the plan during that week. Trust me, every minute will be taken. And to say exactly what's going on, it's hard to say until we survey people.
Thank you, Sharon. And for that PD, we expect on-site PD. It might be a blend of on-site and online based, depending on how many folks we can get in the same space at the same time. But that's part of our plan. We plan to start bringing the teachers back in during that week for that PD and begin that process.
I believe that the only way that it really works is to have the teacher, whether they're alone or there's 4 or 5 kids in the classroom, for them to be in school. I think it's the only way it works. They have to not be sidetracked by anything else in their classroom.
Right. And we're hopeful that we can secure a safe working environment to be able to do that. I think most of the teachers would love to go back to their classrooms, even if they have, even if there's no students there, but they can have the normalcy of their routines back, their schedules back. And you're right, just, not having to be mom and teacher at the same time, there's all kinds of things. And there's a lot we have to iron out from now till then, but I just know that if we don't have a comprehensive plan to train these teachers more effectively to be ready for the fall, and guys, this is not going away. This is coming back, and this is going to be for a while. So we better prepare for it and hope that school's going to be in session and we're good, but be ready if it's not. I think that's our goal. For the rest of the staff, I'm just finishing up my last slide here. We're initiating a phase-in on-site work integration plan that's starting next Monday. I sent out a memo to the staff this afternoon, letting them know that within the groups that you fall in, this is our directive. So starting with group 1, custodial staff, bus drivers, mechanics, everyone's going to full 8-hour shifts beginning on Monday. Those folks have been on half shifts for their hours for the past several for the past 4 weeks after we did the initial phase out. Group 2 is also beginning on-site work next Monday. And that's your administrators, directors, coordinators, guidance counselors, central office staff, IT personnel. We've got to wrap this year up, and we need folks in the building to be able to do that. You know, IT needs to start collecting devices and making sure that, you know, that's being accounted for. Our guidance counselors, and, you know, we need to, wrap up all of the graduation stuff and the all of those things that need to happen, the grade reporting and everything. Our administrators need to be on site, you know, directing all of that work. So we just need folks. And Lucy will tell you firsthand, central office needs to be back in the flow of things and getting that going. Then we move to group 3, school secretaries, guidance secretaries. So all of our secretaries are beginning on-site 4-hour shift work beginning the following Monday, May 18. School nurses and social workers are also starting at that same time. We want those folks checking in with our people. So you saw me scan you guys when you all came in. You know, we need our medical professionals doing that and checking in with folks. How are you feeling? How are you doing? How are things? And then moving into group 5, we're not going to change anything for the lunch staff right now. So lunch is going to continue to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, prepping on those Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's been outstanding. We've exceeded well over 100,000 meals, Valley Unified now. Our reimbursement for the month of April for this district alone, I believe, was $127,000, something like that. So we're making a lot of meals. We're delivering a lot of meals, and we have to keep that going. And then, like I said, group 6, teachers, librarians, and all other ed techs, we're bringing them back on June 8th for targeted PD, which is the plan. So you'll see a calendar in front of you. That calendar would be the change if you were in favor of what I've just proposed for you. And I'll share that with the audience. So you'll see the March 16 and 17 is when we had 2 comprehensive workshop days where our teachers were preparing their remote learning plans. They initiated their plans beginning on the 18th of March. All of those blue boxes are remote learning days. So we've been in remote learning days all of that time. Here we are on May 6th. So that means we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more weeks of remote learning, phasing out on June 5, as we said. And then those additional 8 days, the balance of the 8 days remaining would be the workshop days. It reduces your student days by 8 days. So it's not, it's not the end of the world. It's not perfect, but this scenario was not perfect. So many schools throughout the states didn't do a thing for weeks and weeks and only initiated their learning plans well into April. We were day 3, we were off and running. So that's just a testament to what we've done. But I implore you that those workshop days are needed and they will be well used. And I think we need to do it.
I have a few questions.
Yes, sir.
First question is, and I'm hearing that nobody's hearing us, so I'm going to try to speak really loudly.
Okay.
First question is, I understand there's some sort of survey going out. Is that going on to all the students and parents, or what?
Yeah, so the survey that Sharon talked about is we're going to send it out mass message to all students, all families in the district. We want mega results coming back from that.
What's that mean? Are you sending just emails to the students who don't open their emails? I mean, what are you doing here?
We're going to do our alert system, Jake, which is our phone call, text message, and email system that's sent out like when we cancel snow days or have any of those alerts. So it's sent out 3 different meetings. We're also going to post on all social media pages links to that survey and try to get out as much as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's an observation of mine. I have a couple kids who are in the elementary school, and it feels like a very different situation depending on which school the kids are in. The high school situation is very different from the elementary school.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering if there's any thought going into how that's going to look when we start putting this together, because I don't know if my 8-year-old necessarily knows more than the teachers do about how to use this stuff.
Right.
And I am on par with the teachers, given that I graduated with many of them.
Yep.
So my knowledge is not, to go to Barry's question, I think that's one of my concerns, is that I have little doubt that the older students can do very well with these platforms, but I don't know how well I can do with these platforms.
Yep.
So what's going on with that?
So Robbie, Mr. Neto, and I'll let him talk in a minute if he's comfortable. He's advocated for that all along, that we need to make sure that whatever our plans are, so working with, Sharon's instruction team and how to plan for that, we have to have a middle high school plan, and we have to have an elementary plan, and even more so in the elementary, we have to have an A-wing plan. We have to have an A-wing plan versus a B and C wing plan, because that's all very different. We know that there are ways that we can reach the kids and effectively, but I think where we're falling short is that it's looks so different for so many teachers. So where teacher A is having the Facebook Live things, and you have your weekly morning meeting, and that's working out, whatever, there are another group of kids that just get the email, and it has the links. I said it a while ago, kids want to see their teachers. I think we need to teach the teachers how to do that, how to get comfortable with it. And then on day one of school year,
You know,
get something,
Ben,
Jake?
You've been 5 weeks into this and there's another 4 weeks. Why do we have to wait to the end of the school year to get this consistency? Like, why can't you tell the teachers to do it consistently? I understand they've been using different platforms, but I don't want 4 more weeks of blah for our students.
And I'm sorry if it's come across as that. It's not been blah. We've asked these teachers to redo the way that they teach in 2 days. They have reconfigured the art of teaching in only 2 days' time. And it is not fair, nor is it appropriate, nor is it possible to get them to do what they're doing right now, which is 10 times harder than classroom instruction. And then at the same time, oh, by the way, you need it to do this way. We're very mindful about letting them have a lot of voice and choice in this process, given that their whole lives are thrown upside down, not only from a teaching standpoint, but from just a family living standpoint. So we didn't want to burn everyone out. But if we can offer them comprehensive professional development at the end of this year to prepare better for next year, that's the best bang for our buck. So it's not to say they're doing a bad job. It's just saying we need to prepare them better so that we can be better as a district.
I mean, why can't we do a professional day next Monday and Tuesday? Let's all teachers Zoom in and do something that's going to help us get some more standardization.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
into that? So in meeting with the teachers, because we've been offering PD through webinars and such, and I've had good teachers say, Sharon, I really want to attend that seminar, but I just can't. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're conferencing with students. They just do not have the time to be doing that. Thursday, they're chasing students. They're trying to get in correspondence with them. We're not worried about the students that are on task, that work on Monday and then they're done by the end on Monday. So to say that we're going to offer this PD, they're just not, that's just not the place that they're at, not only for them, but now all the students are going to have to relearn something that they finally have grooved in and they feel comfortable with. So I think there's good instruction going on, but I really think to do that fairly, we need to identify what best practices are. So I may say one thing. So to go back to Toby's question, the survey will be broken up. We have representation for this committee, K-2, 3-5, 6-8, and then high school. It's going to look different at each level, and best practices are going to look different from a K-2 PD than a 3-5 PD than the others. So to just say we're going to do PD and just have a blanket statement, and then they're going to say, well, that's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is effective. I think we need to be mindful of best practice. And until we identify what works best for students and parents and teachers alike, that I really think that we would be also wasting their time and our time to plan forward. That's just kind of my 2 cents on that. So,
I just don't want 4 more weeks of something that's, I mean, are we going to be okay with something that's good for some students and not so good for other students? I mean, is that where we are right now?
I think it's going well for a good majority of the students that are engaged. I think most of the problems that it's not going well are those that are not engaged. And so, and if there is a problem, say, Jake, that you're personally having, I think that's more of a conversation for you to have, you know, with the teacher, or for a parent to reach out to the teacher or the administrator to talk about if there are problems. And I'm not saying that there are not. I don't know. I'm not aware of that, but
Well,
I
you
think
know, for
the same
example, you,
student. Go ahead, Jake. I think the same students that we are pulling our hair out every day when they're in our classrooms to engage and get learning going. These are the ones that we have difficulty when they're here, when they're sitting, 5 feet away from me when I'm instructing my class. So now that they're miles away from me, behind a computer screen, it's the same learners that we're having difficulty connecting with. So it's not, it's not the masses, a mass amount of students. The ones that are invested in their learning, they're still invested in their learning through this remote learning plan.
so when you're identifying the percentage of students who are demonstrating that appropriate connection, hitting their milestones, when's that going to happen? Is that going to happen during professional development, or are they, I know you touched upon it briefly, but is that going to be happening now to the end of the school year? Is we're going to identify students?
Yeah, we're doing that ongoing. It's ongoing all the time. We've got master documents, and we're documenting that as well.
So where are we? Do you have a number by chance? If we've been documenting it, what percentage of the students, if we're using Empower to document success, how are we being successful right now with remote learning? I'm curious.
John and Robbie, do you want to respond to that? I'm sorry, Gary. I want to get to your question.
Sure, Jake. It's more or less kind of tough to use Empower to do that. So what we've been doing is setting up documents on a weekly basis, and what's happening is we're having students that or teachers place names of students by the grade level, and this is at the middle high school, that are kind of going dark, that aren't checking in that week. Okay. And so what's happening is the guidance staff and everyone else is trying to go after communicating with these kids, with these parents, to try to get them back online. We really haven't. Teachers are working so hard right now, so many hours a day, and we are too, tracking kids that we don't have time to kind of take a look at the whole big picture of exactly what we're missing until this summer. And that's going to be part of the 8 days is also going to be taking a look at, okay, where are we right now? Okay, so these kids have missed this kid's got to go to summer school. This kid's going to be okay. Maybe the math team is going to work together, and they're going to say, this is where we start our math program next year. Okay, because we've got three different teachers teaching Math 1 right now. So, and they might be in a little different place. So we're going to have to go ahead and take a look at all those little pieces and decide, where this is going to fit for next fall. Okay. So I guess the point is we haven't had, because of, I think, lack of time, if not anything else, is that we haven't had time to really find out exactly where the gaps are. We're trying to keep kids engaged, and we're going after the kids that aren't engaged. And, I think teachers do have an idea of where they're going. We've asked them to, at those first 2 days, to identify what are the essential learnings the standards that you want to see done by the end of the year, and go for those. So I guess we're going to see in those days in June where those are going to be. And, to go ahead and have 2 days, let's say Monday and Tuesday of this week, of next week for a workshop, we don't have that identified yet. You know what I'm saying? So it'd be kind of wasted time. What we're doing now is, I'd say, working at least the middle high school levels, working for about 80% of the kids. And, you know, we're gonna, and you know, we're gonna find out where things fall out in June. And, you know, make, you know, proper changes in our programming so that next year things, you know, go smoother and we get kids caught up.
And just so we're clear, that what we're hearing from our colleagues across the state is a 40 to 50% connection rate with kids, or engagement rate. 40 to 50% is good, or is what's happening across the state. We're talking about upwards of 80% with our learners and what's going on. So I think we're doing a really, really good job in our design and how we've done it.
Gary, you had something?
Okay.
Well,
No, thank you.
I'm going to speak to what the elementary
Gary.
schools, when we have a running document in terms of the level of engagement that our students are in. For example, there's very few kids that we've had little to no engagement, but even if a student misses a couple of Zoom meetings, so we're meeting weekly with our grade levels and guidance counselors at the same time, and we're identifying those students, and then we have that document where we see where the teachers have reached out, the date, and their initialing, when the guidance counselors are then reaching out, and then it comes to administration for us to reach out. So it's really a tiered approach in terms of reaching the students that might be disengaging at that time. We saw a downturn in engagement after the April break, which, you know, in the classroom, we kind of see that as well, where kids come back for break. It's hard to rein them in. We get back in our SOPs, that type of thing. So that's kind of, we're still in the process of that right now, but have multiple meetings daily regarding different students. And I've called home, I've talked to parents, I've Facebook messaged parents, our guidance counselors are doing the same, our teachers are doing the same. So it's really the teachers are working hard the full day. I mean, they're receiving messages at night, they're messaging parents at night to get the kids kind of back in. My whole Facebook feed is full of different classrooms and different things that are going on, teachers that are doing different activities, different Facebook lives. A little bit, I don't know that the word blah is something I would use to describe what we're doing right now, or what we're going to be doing for the next 4 weeks. So I don't know if that's something that might be able to be addressed, Mr. Terrio, but I know the teachers are doing a great
Blah is
job.
a little strong.
Yeah, so.
No, I feel, no, I appreciate your feedback, Robbie. Thank you. And John, thank you very much. I guess I have a concern. And if we're hitting 80% of the people, that's a good milestone that we have right now. But I just want to make sure we're.
Well, so the other thing too is when you look at the 80%, one of our messages to parents has been what you can, when you can, as best you can. And what that means is we have a parent that might be home with their child all day. So that learning might look a lot different than you have a single mom who's a nurse who's doing 12-hour shifts. So they might get a half an hour that day with their child or an hour that day with their child. So the learning is different there. And that's what Mr. Silva talks about in terms of that gap. We have parents that are doing their best, but their best is maybe an hour a day because they're working and they're doing everything they can to put food on the table for their families. So that plays into it as well.
No,
Not so much what people want,
Thank you, Robbie.
but what they're able to.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Robbie.
guys. The chairman would
I guess it's the 4 weeks I have a concern with, that's all. But if that makes sense, thank you very much.
The chairman would like to speak, you guys.
I have one observation and one question. My question is, the request is for 8 days at the end of the year for a workshop for professional development. Why does it have to be the last 8 days? Why can't it be 2 days a week or 3 days and then whatever? If you want to learn something, why can't you do it in stages? I find 8 days, if I ever went someplace for 8 days, I'm going to forget 4 of them.
Before anybody answers, make a suggestion.
Yes, sir, Toby.
Can I suggest that before anybody else speaks, including the people in this room, we go to you?
Yes,
for
sir.
acknowledgement?
Yes, because people are jumping in and we're only getting half of it.
Yeah.
That's correct. Are you guys hearing us okay?
So guys, if you guys in Zoom land, if you want to speak, you're going to have to, raise your hand to be acknowledged rather than just speaking out, because we find that the Zoom people are outdoing the live people and we just need to cooperate here. So just a hand up and then we'll acknowledge you as your hand is up.
And then start practicing going to Gary. Start practicing. Okay, but my question was, 8 days at the end of the year. Do you need professional development before that to take 8, off the 8 days? You know what I'm saying, Ben?
Yeah.
Does that help or does that not help?
So what I think Sharon has alluded to it, quite a few times. If we throw together some quasi professional development that we as administrators, and we're all smart folks, but we think this is really going to be great stuff. We're not the ones living this, breathing this, doing this every day. It could be an absolute mess. We need to collect some data from students, collect data from parents. We need to know what's going to work. And then we need to vet what they're saying based on what we can provide them. We need to have pricing about technology. We need to see what kind of programs are out there that are worth purchasing or worth keeping. That's going to take time, and it's going to take way more than to prepare in the next few weeks. We found that whenever we get the best bang for our buck with teachers is when we have back-to-back workshop days, because if you have a one and done, your real life kicks into gear the next day. You can't even apply what you learned that previous day because now it's triage again because you're back in your daily grind. We need to have the end of the year where the teachers know they're no longer working with students. They can focus on themselves, focus on their craft, and make concrete plans for themselves to gear up for August. So I feel this is the best way to do that. Did anyone else? Toby wants to speak. Toby first.
Are we going to, I talked to a teacher and she recommended that once school reconvenes in whatever way it reconvenes this summer, that we'd be doing STAR testing at some point. And at that point, will we not have a better handle? Like, I'm thinking about this and we've been, I think we're quick to assume that engagement equals success, but it doesn't necessarily. And disengagement doesn't necessarily equal failure. If you got a kid who's on it, they probably, they can skip a few classes and be okay. We're not really going to be able to address deficiencies until we do STAR testing, are we?
Right. So STAR testing is a diagnostic test. So it'll assess overall what you know. The problem right now is that we have learners that are not meeting proficiencies. So they're falling further and further behind on their progression of learning. What we want to recapture this summer is that progression of learning. So get them caught up in the proficiencies they've missed. First week back in August, it's STAR testing out of the wazoo to find out, okay, where are the holes? And then we're filling those. And that's how we're grouping and regrouping. Gary would like to speak.
Should we do STAR testing the last few days of school to get an idea of where they're leaving for the year so we can better plan for the start of the year? Is that possible?
So the question is, I don't know if you guys heard that, can we employ a system of STAR testing to the students to end out the school year so that we figure out where the students are at heading into the summer? Did anyone want to elaborate? I know there's all kinds of things with regards to that summer layoff and how that, that throws the STAR testing out, but if anybody wants to talk about that, anybody out there? Or just leave me hanging, that's fine.
I mean,
Go ahead, Robbie.
you're talking about them doing STAR testing at their homes. You're talking about bringing them in to do STAR testing, I guess.
I believe we would not be able to have them do STAR testing at home, so they would have to come in. I don't even know if we'd be allowed to do that, but let's say, one at a time, appointment only, or groups of 10, maybe we can do groups of 10. What is the validity of a STAR test prior to the summer break, I guess is the question I'm asking.
So, I mean, what we usually see even going into summer, there's a summer slide. So what we do at Fort Elementary is really the first, we give them a couple days back and then we give them a STAR test right away. And that's what we do every year because we want, and we do a benchmark at the end of the year as well, but we assess them right at the beginning of the year. So that way we can then kind of judge what their needs are for Title I, for other interventions, those types of things. So we've generally done that already at the beginning of the years because we find that the data is more accurate than if we use the end of the year data. But that's been the experience that we've had and what we've done.
Thank you. Sharon?
And I think too, I think STAR testing is good, but as you mentioned, Ben, it's diagnostic. I think it's going to be important that teachers have already created assessments in regards to the standards that they teach. So say a student takes the STAR test. I mean, it'll show perhaps, and maybe not, but let's make the assumption for this lack of time in the classroom that there's a significant amount of lost learning. So the question begs, where do we start? And so, you know, it'll say that numbers and operations, or a student is, you know, struggling in algebra. Well, the teacher has more knowledge in regards to what specific standards in regards to algebra are they the weakest in. So I think teachers can dissect that information better in their classroom and use that to make progress when they come back, and to do grouping and regrouping, because we say that they're weak in numbers and operation, and so when they start the school year, like, what does that mean? And so you know that the student's going to need to work on multiplication, the students need to work on division, and so by the teachers having more information regarding the standards, I think that they're going to be able to attest better to what students needs than using a diagnostic test that's going to give you a more broad-based categorization of what the students are missing. So as much as it's nice, I don't think that bringing them in at the school year is going to tell you any new information that a teacher couldn't already tell you from the get-go.
Thank you. So I've presented a calendar to you. It's what the administrative team is advocating for. It's what I'm asking as well. We would need board approval, however, to adjust the calendar. It does not reduce the teacher days. The teachers will be working their full academic year. It does reduce the student days, and I know, and I know that's tough. I just feel like with what everyone is going through and everyone's gone through, June 5 is a good date. I don't want to compare us to others, but you know, we're in good company with schools around us in that thought process, and I just think it's a wise move to really take a benefit of those last 8 workshop days. Sarah?
I was concerned about Gary kind of alluded to it earlier about, you know, you have 20% that are not engaging, and, you know, basically penalizing 80% because it's stopping their learning so the gap doesn't grow. I was kind of concerned about that, but I think that it is probably a better bang for your buck to get our teachers to the point that they can be more effective. I think we have some teachers that are doing an amazing job.
Yep.
And then there's some that are, even some amazing teachers are struggling, but there's some that just, they're not sure what to do with it and how to be effective with it. And I think,
And part of those days too is going to be collecting data on students about, okay, who are we asking to, or who are we telling needs to come to summer school? Collecting all that data those 8 days and really doing a bang up job with the 20% that didn't connect, bringing them back in. So that's part of the plan as well.
But can I just,
Barry,
Go ahead, Kurt. I was checking the calendar here.
all right, I just want to say that, you know, like the 80% that are engaged, they're connected, we're teaching, we're going for it. The 20% that choose not to, that's their prerogative, that's a family issue. People are contacting them. If they fall behind, it's not because we're not there advocating for them. But I'm not going to sacrifice teaching to the 80% that really want the instruction, or the 20%. I'm not going to spend all my time. I mean, I'm going to pass that information on to administration and let them contact the parents and whomever has to be contacted. So in terms of the quality education to those 80%, they're getting it. We're moving forward.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sibley.
I think to go off what Kerr and Sarah just said, where I was starting to go before, was if those 20% are willfully disengaged, I don't think we need to work on bringing them back up. They just repeat this year. and
Right.
you let the 80% move forward. We can't penalize
And-
the whole student.
And that's the catch-22 there. Summer school is optional, right? So the best we can do is say, hey, we really think you should be here, and they lose some of their summer. Will every kid? No. I'm looking to capture the family that had a scenario that just did not allow them to have the experience, working mom, working dad, and all of those things, and a summer school, especially for a younger, would bring them back up. But you're right. We got seniors right now in danger of not graduating. They've had multiple letters. At one point, it's going to be so sorry, so sorry. You chose what you chose. I have a lot less tolerance for a 17, 18-year-old than I do for a 5, 6-year-old.
Now, if I may add, one of the big selling points for proficiency base was exactly what you're talking about. You're going to be moved by your proficiency,
Yep.
nothing else. We don't care about your age.
Exactly.
And that's exactly why I agreed to it, even though I still don't agree with 100% of it today.
Some kids will be exactly in the same class they were in March 16, because that's where they were when they left off.
Correct. Now, I agree with your timetable. I also would like to say that the school year should end on the 17th, which is the date that you've asked.
Mhm.
But I'm also saying that if you want to take 2 days in June and put them in May or someday for a workshop, you should, in order so that you're not all learning that stuff in 8 days. Is what I'm saying, is that you should have that option if other people agree. I just think that I think that it's time now or in the next week or two to have a workshop or two to get everybody up to snuff.
My sense with that, Barry, is that when you're teaching, you need to have consistency and continuity. And if you suddenly break a couple of days, I mean,
Part of the design of this was to be mindful to have some kind of semblance of a senior week the following week, where the students wouldn't have to be worried about finishing up their work throughout that week. So part of that was, we're done at June 5, then we're sailing out with focusing on health and well-being and all the things we should be celebrating. We have a lot of plans put together, for all of the things, and I think we need to be mindful of that. So although I think I understand what you're saying, put a couple of days in May, which would normally work out. For this year, I really think June 5, that's the date.
Okay, my other question is, you're targeting kids that need help. Are we targeting teachers that need help?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's exactly my point, is that my point was to have those workshop days for the teachers that you need to target now, so that they can maybe finish the year on target. It's going to end on a certain date.
Right.
We know that. Give the help to the people that need it and the students that need it. That's my point.
Also makes things difficult to have a PD day in May. It would have to be virtual because we can't have more than 10 people on site in the month of May. So
But in June, you can.
in June, I can't.
I will, Barry, I'm gonna say something. I've got my kids to the point, my wife and I can't say me, my wife with some assistance from me, have our kids to the point where we have a routine.
Okay.
My eldest is in a Rise classroom, and they have, I don't want, things come across funny, and I don't want this to come across badly, but they found their stride. It wasn't there initially, but they really found their stride. And I don't want to mess that up for them. I'd rather have, and I'll admit, initially, when we're talking about canceling school early, my response, because I'm already not terribly popular anyway, was everyone else has to work, get to work. I'm not getting time off, but I've changed my mind. And I've changed my mind because I've seen the changes that have taken place in my children's classrooms, especially Rise. My other daughter is doing well, but it was going kind of the same, and it's been going well. But Rise, I watched a change happen, and they went from okay to phenomenal in a matter of weeks. I don't want to upset my daughter's schedule because they finally got it. So it's like, it's working. I know what Tuesday is. We're doing a map of Island of Blue Dolphins tomorrow. Like that's happening. So for that reason, I disagree with you. However, I will say that I think we should at least start discussing where the governor's outline is not having us kind of able to reconvene until after August. I think as a board, we should talk at least briefly about harvest break.
And I think we should next meeting.
I think we need to talk about it. I think
Yeah,
that's what we need to put forward.
I absolutely.
Okay, in
So,
a slight delay, the
Yep.
only point I wanted to make, only point, was not about the kids. It was about the teachers that need help.
Yeah.
That's it.
Burning out.
So with that being said, I'd make a motion to accept the amended school calendar for 2019, 2020.
Motion by Gary,
I'll second that.
second by Kurt.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Andre,
Jake gave us a thumbs up. Yep, thank you.
move on.
We're only getting started.
Can I say a quick word? I'd like
Go
to
ahead,
say a
Jake,
quick
sorry.
word, if you don't mind. Can I say a quick word? Thank you.
Can you-
There's a lot of tone that gets lost with Zoom and so, and this isn't, you got a bloody nose? I'm sorry. Yeah. Can Daddy talk real quick? Talking. Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi. 1 second, please. I just want to say when I was mentioning blah, of course, this is the time when the kids come in, right? It was more they're not getting what they were used to, and so it wasn't anything in speaking to how the mode of teaching was lessened in any fashion. It was just more that it's not where we wanted it to be as a whole. So I just wanted to speak. to that.
It will never be until we get back to the classroom. And that's just, that's just the way that's the reality of it.
Was he in favor of our meeting?
The next agenda item is the senior graduation survey. You have a copy in front of you. I will bring up the survey results on the screen. I hope. Hold on. I have too many windows open. You'll see from the survey results that there were, the survey went out to parents, it went out to students, it went out to staff. And we are trying to collect as much data that we can, although we did know that we wanted to use the student data to be the real driver behind the decision making. Mr. Coletta, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Did you want to talk about the survey and conversations that you've had since then about what some plans are?
Certainly. The student body has, I should say the senior class, there you go, pretty much was about 2/3 of them, I believe, if my memory serves me right, wanted it outdoors, and another 20-something% wanted it, drive-in style. Okay, so that gives you a pretty really large group that would like to have an outdoor graduation. And the high school staff was pretty much the same way, maybe quite not as high, and the parents were very similar. So it looks like we'd like to go with an outdoor graduation. That way we can, in June, practice social distancing much easier than indoors. Okay. Also, the date that they would like. Let's see if we can get the student date. They also picked, I think it was almost 2/3 of them would like to keep the original date of June 12th. Yeah. Are we there yet?
Okay, the students are, no.
That's
Sorry.
the top one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was about 2/3 of the students would,
65%.
yeah, would right there. Would like to have it on the 12th. Okay, and then there was a whole mess, other ones that would like it sometime in early June, as soon as possible. So it's definitely more than 2/3 would like it on June 12th. Okay, that's, I believe, the parent. Is that the student?
This
or
is the
parent?
parents. This
That's
is
the
the
parent.
parents. And then the staff. Right here.
Right.
So, Mr. Coletta, what have you guys decided?
So we, as a senior team, got together today, this morning, and after looking at the results of the survey, decided that we would like to keep the day of June 12th, 7 p.m., and then basically have it on the soccer field, and we'd have a rain date on the 13th, just in case, pretty much the same time. We've already inquired about getting channel 4 there so we could live stream it. And we've also looked into sound systems to make sure it's done right. But this is kind of like in what it's going to look like. Have a semicircle around the soccer field. Okay. And every student would be able to, every graduate would be able to have 2 cars there. Okay. I believe Mr. Saucier measured everything out so we could fit 2 cars per person in alphabetical order going around the semicircle. Then we will have generally a pretty normal ceremony. We plan on having the students in a semicircle, okay, practicing social distancing, an inner part of the field, and then also having the the administration there in a with a table and a podium to give out the diplomas at that time. In alphabetical order as we go, but we would do everything as normal. We would have, the welcoming speech, we'd have student speeches, we would have our scholarships and, other student awards at that time. We would be able to do the class song. So when we finish up with everything, students would be able to do their class song and then have our recessional go out. Then we could have a nice parade go throughout town, with the fire trucks and everything. End up at the ski lodge is what we're thinking. And by that time, it'll be very close to being dark out. And especially if I could give a longer speech, maybe we'll get there. But and then we'll have fireworks at the ski hill. Okay, everyone could kind of stay at or near their car, and have the fireworks go off. And I think it'd be a special night, and it'll be different, but be very similar in some ways. And then, as we said, we'd have the next day, that Saturday, for a rain date. Are there any questions on that? We plan on sending a school reach out to the entire senior class tomorrow. We just kind of wanted to run it by the school board today and see what we thought. What do you think, Emily?
I like that idea.
Awesome.
Well, Emily likes it, so.
Oh, and one thing I forgot is that we
I want you to check that first chance you get.
we would like to bring in the class officers into our next meetings. I think Ms. Saucier is going to meet with the class officers beginning of next week. And then for planning, for fine tuning, we like to have the class officers involved to give some voice to the senior class on this as well.
Perfect.
Yep. All good.
Thank you, Mr. Coletta.
You're welcome.
And we did receive some guidance from the state on holding graduation. So I pushed that out to Mr. Coletta as well. So you don't have that in yours. I can send it to you email. This came out today.
I'm amazed. Made the decision.
Well, it's guidance.
Okay.
It's guidance. So guidance for in-person ceremony, drive-in options. So we're falling within all of the guidance. Again, I think.
So
the State
you have
Department
2
spies on
options,
this, and then-
John? John, you're gonna have 2 options. You're gonna have the car option and then a virtual option, or are you just only going forward with an in-person option?
We're going forward with the in-person option. And because it'll be a little more personal, but we'll still be able to have the social distancing going on with the way everyone's seated, and we're
So
not
if
going to allow.
so if the winds are above 10 miles an hour, are you going to increase the spacing to 10 feet? Because those are
We
some of
can
the
certainly
concerns
do
I
that.
have.
There's certainly enough room to do that. So
Okay.
we can do that. They do have to, I didn't mention, but our graduates do need to wear face masks, and people there need to
Okay,
have
guys,
face
the
masks on
the
as well.
chairman is calling the meeting back to order, guys. The chairman's
I have a
calling the meeting back to
question,
order.
On the date for the senior projects, we have a date.
Mr. Coletta, do we have a date for the senior projects?
Yes, they're the last 2 weeks in May. Yeah.
It's 2
Trying
weeks
to
in
fit
May.
them all
By
into the
appointment,
first
right?
week. Yeah, there's by appointments. We're set up. We've got, I believe, 3 groups with 3 teachers or panel members for each. And students are already able to start choosing their dates. We've probably got about a third of the kids signed up at this point.
Thank you.
My next question on that particular topic is, now that you're allowed to have 10 people there, can they do it in front of a panel?
That's this month. They'll be doing it by Zoom. Is what we decided that early on. I mean, can we do that? I guess we possibly can, but then we'll still have a lot of people milling in the hallway as well. It's still May, so if it was in June, I think it'd be quite a bit easier to do that. I mean, we could take a look at that again. I think, Zoom is something I think that students are going to need to be comfortable with in their future, without a doubt, being able to lead that, the presentation and give presentations through Zoom and being a part of them. So I think there's, I don't think they're getting off any easier. Actually, usually when they present on, say with regular platform, they're able to have their notes with them on the screen. In this case, they might have to have note cards and go the old fashioned way as well to have that in front of them, because their computers are going to be in use at the time.
My only point was, I don't even like the way this works. If we're on Zoom now, I don't like the way this works. I mean, we don't know who's talking when and where. We can't hardly understand people. I mean, that's just my point.
Yeah, and like I said, there's going to be, 1 student and 3 panel members. So it won't be quite as confusing as a large meeting such as this. In fact, it may reduce, some anxiety.
Yes, Toby.
I'm getting feedback that not that
No.
multiple people, that even Jake are what's
Yeah,
happening.
so this is not a professional setup. This is an iPad and a laptop. And I do have a whole Padcaster set up here that I will invest some time in and figuring it out. There's microphones involved.
What I was gonna recommend is that if one of the people here speak, perhaps you turn your computer
I can
around,
do that.
and I think it'll pick up better, because I think we're talking to the back of your microphone.
Yep.
And if somebody wants to talk with knowledge, we're gonna have to be more regimented than we normally
Well,
are.
that's what I'm saying. I don't like the way it's working now. Can you imagine presenting something that you're graded on? And
I can tell you that if you connected a set of speakers on that, and I have speakers in my classroom, when I do garage band presentations, I mean, the speakers just put it out.
If you guys remember the last meeting when we were all Zoomed, it worked fine because we were all at our screen. This is kind of weird because we're live and Zoom. We just don't have the right technology. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Moving on.
I'd like to say something else. Is that okay, Chairman?
Who's that that's talking?
Jake would like to say something else.
Okay, Jake, go ahead.
All right. John, I want you to prepare for every eventuality, and what I think you should have a little bit of a virtual prepared, like your speech should be pre-recorded, your valedictorian speech should be pre-recorded. You don't want to be in a position where everyone thinks we're doing a great job flattening, but you have to plan for the unit for everything. And I don't want you guys to be surprised in a month and a half's time and not have anything for a backup plan. And so if you could get your, key speakers virtually recorded, I think that would be a good, something to be mindful of. And
Yeah, I don't
Aaron
think that
Bernstein
would-
at the college did a great job.
Yeah, I think that's some good advice, Jake. It wouldn't be very hard to go ahead and pre-record things, just in case we do have to go virtual at the last minute. That could happen. And the nice thing is we have, Channel 4 kind of locked in already. So we'd be able to, I think, make that transition. If things go bad, it's, usually there's a little bit of lead time. So, but yeah, we'll be mindful of that.
Watch UMFK's, they're doing their virtual ceremony at 10 o'clock this Saturday if you want to see what we did. So it's something to look
Yeah,
at.
the students were very animated. They did not want a virtual graduation. So we're trying to use a lot of the student voice here, but you're right. We have to have a plan B. So John, if we could plan for those speeches to be recorded in case we have to broadcast them instead, that would be good advice.
And before we go to the next topic, I'd like to say that this class has been surrounded by turmoil since they've been born.
They have.
9/11, here it is. We're in the pandemic, the Corvo virus. Who knows what's going to happen next? Okay, yes.
The next item I have is just to let you all know that I will be re-engaging Valley Unified discussions shortly. We've had this break, but we've got to get back to those discussions. Last when we broke off, it was discussions around a think tank. So I'm going to be reaching out to you that have been identified on that think tank. That is who? That's
Gary, Toby. Sarah.
no. There's
No,
only
not
two.
me.
There's only two.
You want that?
No, Gary and Toby. Yes. Okay. So I'll be reaching out to you guys soon to. I'll go back to my notes. And re-engaging that. I think we can do that, and it'll be important that we do set up a first meeting. I have no correspondence, or no, actually I do have an announcement. Melanie Legacy let us know that within the past 5 weeks, she has secured over $40,000 worth of grants for the food lunch program between the 3 districts. She did secure a $10,000 grant last week for SAD27 with one of her programs, getting some food warmers for the bus and some different things that she's gonna be able to use in the kitchen as well when we go back to onsite, but she's getting grants like crazy. So she keeps notifying us and we keep saying, keep going. So it's been full. We're donating some coolers to some folks who didn't have any. So that's been wonderful. You do have some administrative reports in your packet. You have one from Stacy. You have a very comprehensive one from Mr. Doucette. You have one from Sharon Chessy. You have one from Paul Michaud, and you also have one from Anne Marie. Did anyone have questions about any of those administrative reports? Thank you all for preparing those.
Yeah, very good.
Good stuff.
My only question, my only concern is the people that are not engaged in education the way they should be. Do these members know how they're going to react to the people that have not engaged in education properly?
Can you say that again?
The people that are not engaged, the 20% of the people that maybe not be engaged, that have not, they're not proficient in their classes.
Yep.
Are we following the rules of proficiency, or are we following the rules of social?
No. We've had conversations around that. We decided that when this was initiated, we are not going to a pass-fail system. We were
Perfect.
continuing with proficiencies.
Very good.
So if you have not earned your proficiencies in remote learning, you just haven't earned them.
Very good.
Yep. So thank you, administrators, for supplying those. We did not do a second read of policy BEDH, which is public participation at board meetings. I did provide you that in advance. This would be the second read. So if you have no questions, I'll take a motion to accept that second read. Moved by Toby,
Second.
second by
Gary.
Gary.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Good.
Jake, are you okay with the second read of that policy?
Not here.
Too late now.
I don't have it in front of me. I have to abstain.
Okay, thanks. We did have a committee that was tasked with going to meet with the commissioner, and that did occur. It seems like a lifetime ago, but it was actually right when the DOE was scrambling to make some arrangements for COVID-19, and what was about to happen was March 12, which was right before the weekend when we pulled the plug. And the commissioner was gracious enough to meet with us at that time. So do any of those members want to report out on those conversations and what transpired?
Do we want to have a discussion now, or do we want to table that until we have a more streamlined situation where we have all of our board members here?
I'd say more streamlined myself.
Because this would be really clunky, and I know nobody will hear us.
Right.
So we'll be talking to listen to ourselves, and while I appreciate that myself, not everybody does.
I think that makes sense.
So I move to table this until our next regular meeting.
Second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of tabling?
So let me just repeat that in case anybody missed that. The conversation that Toby had was that he'd like to have the full board here live to have those conversations on that report out. So he moved that we table it to the next meeting, and that was seconded by Gary, and all the board members approved that. I noticed Jake, you approved that as well. I didn't see the thumb. You did. Thank you, sir. We move to items of business. Under old business, we have the MSAD27 stormwater sewer system. If you remember, it was back in, I want to say October or November. We had some information coming from the water district here that we have some issues with our drains, our stormwater drains in the back. At that time, we had the opportunity to hop onto a small community grant that the town was going to apply for some of their drains that they wanted to address as well. And we were included in that application. You did approve that we explore that and apply for it. We did get a response that we were approved for that grant. And at that point of the approval, they actually shifted the grant out from underneath the town and shifted it directly to MSAD27. So now the town has their own projects, and we have our project here with regards to our manholes. The grant total, the most you can get in this grant is $90,000. We were granted the full $90,000. However, the project cost estimate is coming out at $208,000. So we would have to make up the difference of the project, and we need to decide. We're on a very tight timeline. We need to decide by June 1, which is in a couple of weeks, if we want to accept the grant and move forward with the project. It's all very new news because we've been kind of tabled with this COVID stuff. So this came to, at the end of March, and we weren't quite sure on what this all meant, but now we're kind of clear on it. And speaking with Lucy, we may be able to take advantage of a little bit of funds that we're saving. I know, Mr. Chairman, you had asked me, what are we saving throughout this school closure? Lucy did a nice job breaking down essentially what is savings from not having substitute teachers. We're saving a little bit on bus mileage because we're not traveling out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And there are some other things that we're saving. So I think, Lucy, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the estimate you had was around $130,000 of possible estimated savings from that, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's.
So if we look at, go ahead, Lucy.
Yeah, no, that's what that's a conservative estimate at this point. Costs are only
So if we
coming
look
in now
at-
for what we saved in March, so.
Yeah. If we look at what we're saving and the grant total, we could, in essence, cover the project total. I don't know that we have a lot of options You know, when Mark and Susie kind of flagged this in you know, last fall, it was more of an urgency. We did some Band-Aid work last fall to say, okay, we'll get by, but you know, with an estimate like this, the project needs to get done.
Is that the hole that's in the back, most of the stuff in Rudy's pocket filling?
Yes.
Half a life of insurance policy.
Yes, that's right.
I think, and I'm hardly a fiscal conservative, but I think if we are maybe next year looking at budget shortfalls, I would hate to throw $100,000 literally into a hole
I know.
at this time. I recognize the $90,000 grant, but there's still $100,000. I mean, that's a couple teachers or ed techs.
I know.
If I had to choose, we'll put a fence around the hole. I think we can do that for under $100,000.
And I think the issue is that it's
Now we're never.
wastewater going into the sewer system, or sewer water going in, I don't know the right way to say it, but there's that overflow that's going into the river. That's a huge concern, and that's what was flagged last year.
Does the town have any money to help us?
The town has their own projects that they're working on to address the same different, so they've are also applied for their own projects.
If we accept the grant, is there a certain time period that we have to use that 90,000?
Lucy, do you know anything about that?
I do not know. All I know right now is that we have to provide them with additional information prior to them either to actually formally awarding us the grant. They need some information prior to June 1st. The engineering firm is willing to help us out. But this is a notice from the main DEP. So the danger of not complying with some of these issues is that you may end up being fined. That's whenever you're dealing with environmental protection.
I talked to Mark a week ago about it, because he asked if it was on the agenda or not. He says, you don't really have any options of doing this. If you don't do it, it's gonna cost you a lot more money. He says, you have no options. Too bad he's not here to tell us that, but that's exactly what he said. He said, you don't really have a lot of options here. Because he says, if you don't, then you're not complying.
Do we have the option?
No, I think I understand the problem. That can be a very costly fine. I think what's happening is stormwater is getting into the sewage system.
Correct.
And it's putting them over their allotment of what they can treat and discharge.
Yes.
And then that makes things very difficult for everybody involved and costly.
Lucy, do we have the option of financing this versus using carry forward money? I don't know if
We
that's a
always have the
popular
option of financing. We can always use that option. Yeah, it would cost us a little bit in interest. I don't have the dollar amounts right now. And you could always do it over more than a year span.
I feel more comfortable with that. Like, just with us not knowing, I mean, I'm terrified to think about next.
Can we explore that? I know it's short time. but
Yes,
can we just
absolutely.
explore some? Okay.
Yep,
Thank
I
you.
can.
No, but
So should we agree to accept the grant though tonight?
I think we
Realize
have
that We
to.
have to either finance
Yes,
or pay it.
yes.
So we're gonna move forward with a motion to accept the grant.
I would
Moved by Sarah,
second.
second by
Any
Gary.
questions? Jake, any questions? Seeing none, can hear us? Yes, Kirk? All in favor?
All in favor, thank
Man,
you.
It's the first time you raise your hand and see all that.
Really time for you to leave.
Just give me one more meeting, that's all I need, one more meeting.
We have a retirement announcement. I'm going to summarize, but after 35 years as a speech language pathologist, Rita Terrio is retiring. She's spent a great deal of time in this district and really has appreciated her time. So I would entertain a motion to accept Rita Terrio's retirement.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Kerr, second by Gary.
All those in favor?
All those in favor? Jake, that's your aunt, correct?
Yeah, it is. Should I? It's
You
a
don't need to
sad
make a
day
speech.
for MSD27. I know, I
It
feel like I had
is,
to.
yeah. We're losing a good one. She's a good fill. We also have a resignation from a Valley Rivers Middle School teacher. It was with great regret that I find myself writing to inform you that I wish to resign from my position as a middle school language arts teacher at Valley Rivers Middle School after 8 years. I did have a good long talk with Kara Beal. Kara's not leaving because she is unhappy with the district, leaving because she needs to be closer to family. She said some wonderful things about the district and what we've done, and we're all heartbroken that she has chosen to leave, but family comes first. So I'll entertain a motion to accept Kara Beal's resignation.
Second.
Sarah and Gary,
All those in favor?
thank you. We also have another resignation from Fort Kent Elementary School. Please accept my letter of resignation for the upcoming school year. I would like to continue working till the end of the school year. I've thoroughly appreciated and loved my position at SAD27 over the past 2 years. And this is from Larissa Lascelles. So I will entertain a motion to accept Larissa Lascelles' resignation. Moved by Kerr,
Second.
second by Gary.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay.
Abstain.
One abstain from Toby. We also have a retirement from a part-time bus driver. And he feels that after 52 years of working for SAD27, he needs to officially resign. So this is from Arnold Dubois, but at the end, he writes a PS. He says, if you guys still need help with the food, still until July, I'm still available. I've been loading buses, with some of the ed techs and Mr. Coletta, Mr. Karen, Mr. Doucette, we've all been, Mr. Michaud, Mr. Neto, we've all been working days off and on, loading the bus, and Arnold's laughing and in a good mood every time. And it's wonderful. I mean, he's got his face mask on, and you can still see the big smile underneath his face mask. So I'll entertain a motion to accept Arnold Dubois' retirement.
So moved.
Moved by Gary,
Any
second by
questions? Seeing
Sarah.
none, all those in favor?
That was Gary and Sarah.
Did you ever get your license, Ben?
No.
Be a good position.
No, I rode the bus and I thought, no, why would I want to? If you remember, we had conversations about putting out an RFP for legal services. I put together this RFP based on some that I found online for other school districts in the state of Maine. I shot it over to Dan Stockford, let him look over it. He returned the message today saying it's perfectly fine the way that it is. However, if we want it tailored more to SAD27 specific, they're more than willing to tailor it for us. But I think he says the general outline is fine. So with your permission, I'd like to put this out. Right now, I have an issue date of tomorrow with a closing date of June 5. Are you fine with those dates, or would you like to expand that? That's good. Okay, so I'll push that out tomorrow if you approve it. Moved by Sarah,
Second.
second by
Any
Toby.
questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? There you go.
All in favor?
Did you skip the transfer again?
Oh, yeah, I did skip a transfer, sorry. Going back to the new business items, we did have a transfer. So whenever a position is open, we offer it in-house first. When Kara Beal announced her resignation, we posted that in-house, and Andrea Valancourt, who is the ELA teacher at the high school here for special ed, she's certified for ELA across the board, and she wanted that. So John and Jill and I talked about it, and we felt it was a good move for Andrea, and we approved that transfer. So just information for you all that Andrea would be teaching 8th grade English language arts next year. And we do have the current openings. You'll see speech pathologist, That's why you see a CHS special education teacher there. That's Andrea's spot. Fort Kent Elementary teacher, that is Larissa's position. The guidance secretary is Louise, that announced her retirement earlier this year. And then the part-time bus driver for Arnold. A lot of interviews are ongoing or about to happen for a lot of these positions.
Elementary school position 6, 2.
It's being shifted. The sixth grade class is coming up. We no longer have that need. The second grade class is large, so it's going down to second grade. Because first grade has 4 and they're all at, I think 17 or 18, right, Robbie? Your first grade numbers?
We'd be looking next year at 21, and 22, and that's before.
If they go to
Summer.
3, that's why we want to keep it 4.
That's with 3. So, and really ideally with those, that K-2 early elementary cluster, you want those smaller class sizes, so.
Absolutely. Yep, thank you.
So do you need a motion for that change?
No, that's just all in-house stuff. Okay, where are we at? We are at approval of, approval of contracts. So you'll see, it probably works better if you put the community high school and the Fort Kent Elementary School one side by side. So the first thing you're approving is first year probationary teachers going to second year. And on the community high school one, you have Kendra Raymond and Danielle Reardon. And on the Fort Kent Elementary one, you have Michelle Lovely. So that is the first motion to recommend those first year going to second year. Moved by Sarah,
Second.
second by Kerr.
Any questions?
I want to make sure I'm on the same page.
I'm not.
Okay. So you have, Fort Kent Elementary School one and the community high school one. And we're just looking at the first section, which is recommend first year probationary to second year. Michelle Lovely is the only one on the Fort Kent Elementary, and then you have Kendra and Danielle on the community high school. We have a motion by Sarah, a second by Kirk. Do you have it? Yep. First section is Michelle and Kendra and Danielle. Yep.
Any questions? Seeing none? Good.
All those in favor? That's good. The second section would be second year probationary to third year. And on the community high school, you have Travis Lynn, Cassie Morno, and Sarah Mulcahy. And on the Fort Kent Elementary, you would have Kelly Waite and Amber DeVoe. Moved by Gary,
Second.
second by Kerr.
I have one question for Mr. Coletta.
Mr. Coletta, there's a question for you.
Something we need to be in executive session.
Maybe. I'm not naming any names. I'm just saying,
If you could ask a general question.
I'm gonna ask a general question. Says, if you have a problem with any of these in your school system, particularly, should we add one more year of probation?
Well, there's 3 years of probation for a teacher. And after that, then they're moved up to the professional level where there's, on a professional contract. So, we're
And
quite
I think
aware.
the chairman, John, I think the chairman's asking, should we be extending a year of probationary if we have an issue with a teacher? I think
Any of them?
any of them.
Well, I guess it depends on what I see in the teacher. If I see someone that is a good instructor, but that needs some work, I try to give them time to work things out. And I guess it depends on the scenario. I mean, sometimes there's somebody that, I feel that after 1 year, I can make that judgment. I mean, if I've got someone I feel is got the qualities to become a great teacher, I'd like to give 2 or 3 years, and then every year I work with them on the aspects that they need to work on, and maybe the one you're thinking of, and I've been working with, and I really want to see, we all want to see, some change, and I think that's possible. And if we don't see that in a year, then that's why we've got a 3-year window. And sometimes I use the 3 years. Sometimes I don't. I could do it in 1 or 2, but I think it's what I see in an individual, and what I think they can become. So I hope that answers your question.
Just a reminder to the group, any new hire this coming school year that we hire, the law goes back to 2 years probationary. So the 3-year window is only for the current probationary teachers that we have. So we do have the flexibility this year with this group. Next year's new hires it goes back to 2.
How much flexibility do we have generally? If we have a teacher that we see as having great potential, but perhaps there have been some setbacks. Do we have the ability to do an extra year of probation?
You
Or are we bound? Do we have to either let them go or hire them?
you have to. That's state law.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
So even my question was answered by your question. How's that?
I'm good that way, yeah.
Hey, you're good.
Okay. Do we want to discuss this further in executive session, or do we want to just move forward?
I'm comfortable moving.
Yeah, I am too, as long as the administrator is willing to, or thinks this person's going to work. He is the person that's working with that individual and not us.
We have a lot of conversations with our admin team about really making sure we're honoring continuing contracts to the teachers that we want to hold on to, but giving them time to really demonstrate. Some of them are more clear than others that it's not going to happen. There's some hope there. So
Okay, there's a motion, I think a second, right?
motion by Gary, second by Kirk.
All those in favor? Very good.
All are in favor. The third section is the recommendation for teachers to receive a continuing contract. So there you would see the balance of the teachers in each school that are that are going to be continuing contracts. There are professional contracts. Moved by Toby, second by Gary.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
And then the last section on each letter is your other professionals that work in those buildings, which is essentially your guidance counselors and your social workers and therapists. Moved by Toby, second by Gary,
Kirk,
second by Kerr.
all those in favor?
Then the last page you have is my recommendations for administrators. And this is broken out into 2 sections. The first section is those school administrators serving SAD27 exclusively: John Coletta, Steve Doucette, Robbie Netto, Paul Michaud, Jill Kelly, and Margaret Peter Saucier. And the second section is for those serving Valley Unified: Lucy Tabor, Peter Karen, Sharon Chassis, and Melanie Legassi. You can do those in separate motions or all together if you so wish.
When do we need to have these done by?
I don't know what lawfully the date is to extend administrator contracts. I can find out. I don't have that off the top of my head. Unless Giselle or Lucy, do either of you know when we have, what's the date for extending contracts?
Sometimes it's written on the actual contract.
Okay.
The ones I viewed today were on the contract.
Okay. So I don't know. Moved by Kerr,
I have a question about one of them that probably ought to be more discussion type conversation.
Okay,
So we move to move this to the end of, after executive session.
For the next meeting.
the individual we're going to talk about has to be an has to be invited in executive, correct?
Has to be invited to
Yep.
executive session. Yeah, we can't, we have to have them there, and we have to give them notice. I think.
We had conversations at a previous meeting that brings up questions about how we're handling something moving forward, I guess is my question. And I don't know the results. We had made a motion to look into something.
Yep.
And we haven't heard back from that.
That's it. Yes, I know what you're talking. No, that's not on this agenda. It's slated for the next agenda, which is in 2 weeks. Our
2
regular,
weeks?
well, we have a regular meeting scheduled 2 weeks and a budget hearing so that you can see the budget.
Why don't we move to table this
Okay.
2 weeks for our next meeting? In 2 weeks.
And then we decide if we want to go.
By then, because I don't think what Sarah wants to ask is something, I think it's something she could have a conversation with Ben directly,
Right.
and it
Okay.
doesn't need to be in an open meeting.
Gotcha.
So the motion by Toby is to table this until the next meeting,
The next meeting date is what?
Monday, the 18th.
So we're gonna table it to Monday, the 18th.
Is that correct? Monday, the 18th. So motion by Toby to table till Monday, the 18th. Second by Sarah.
Any questions? Being none? And, yeah, all in favor. So, the next meeting, is that the meeting we do officers or is that in June?
June.
Ah.
I thought it used to be in April. No?
June.
Okay.
And,
Well, you're
and
ahead of your time.
then the next meeting will primarily be a budget hearing. It's going to be less business because we've taken care of so much today. However, we can discuss those things.
But in the meantime, we might even have an answer on what we can do to move forward on the budget by then. Provided you get an answer from people that don't give answers.
We'll see.
Okay, so, we done?
We have an executive session scheduled.
So, we have a motion to get into executive session.
So moved.
Moved by Toby,
Second.
second by Gary.
Oh, wait.
Turn the power off.
No, so the way this is going to work, I'm going to have Giselle and Lucy, I'm going to send you into a breakout room, and Jacob, you're going to be virtually sent into another room, or it's going to ask you if you want to go to another room, and that'll be the executive. The rest of you, thank you very much, and we'll see you.
Good night.
Assign.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hold on, Jake. I haven't assigned you yet. So you should have been asked to go in that breakout room.
You got a clean floor, Ben. I appreciate it.
Were any motions made to get out of executive?
And not yet.
Not yet. I didn't hear anything. I don't hear anything. Ben, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Yeah. Technology.
Okay, we're ready. And we had a motion by Toby to get out of executive,
Second by Gary.
second by Gary. And it is 8:29. And do we have any motion and exiting executive session?
We're gonna, this is where I make this proposal, I mean.
Yeah.
I move that we can't make a counter offer to the teachers union to ask them if they would explain to them that we're inclined to, we're gonna accept the state mandated step up to the 35,000. We don't really have any choice on that, but on the steps, we ask if they would be open to us.
Pending we get the funds.
Only agreeing to that pending if we get the money.
Okay, so the motion essentially is to agree upon the steps pending that state subsidies come in as planned.
I'll second that.
Second by Kerr.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
And I think we had another motion where we were gonna ask to see if the other unions would be at all interested in discussing.
So a second motion to entertain discussions with other unions to see if they would be inclined to open their contracts and renegotiate in the event that we don't get our state subsidy.
Correct.
So moved.
This is all being recorded, by the way, in case we need to revisit this. So that was moved by Toby, second by Gary.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Sarah and Toby, we're adjourned at 8:30.
Colin.
Giselle, Lucy, did you get all that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Word for word.
Good night,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Good night, everyone. See you.
Thank you.
Lucy.